Tonight, on Behind the Lights. We're beginning a two-part countdown that I've been researching for months, the 12 current American pop artists whose live vocal reputations have sparked the fiercest, longest-running debates in the industry. These are names you already know by heart. Some you probably defend with your life. Others you've quietly side-eyed for years. In Part 1, we're counting down from number 12 to number 7. 6 stories that reveal how fame, production magic, choreography demands, health battles, and plain old bad timing can freeze a singer's reputation in amber, sometimes for an entire career. You'll hear the performances everyone still talks about, the explanations the artists themselves have given, and the moments where things actually turned around, or didn't. By the end of this video, one thing will be crystal clear in 2025: being an iconic pop star and being an undisputed live vocalist are two very different jobs, and very few people manage to ace both at the same time. So, settle in. The clips are cued, the receipts are ready, and the truth, as always, is more complicated than the comments make it sound. Let's start at number 12. Top 12 Kesha. At number 12 is Kesha, someone who didn't just enter pop music in 2009, she detonated inside it. TikTok sold more digital copies that year than any song in history up to that point. And the glitter-drenched, $in-the-name party anthems that followed felt like a middle finger to every polished diva who came before her. Almost overnight, Kesha became the voice of reckless, unapologetic youth. But from the very first national television performances, something else became clear. The voice on the records and the voice on stage sounded like two different people. Watch her 2010 Saturday Night Live set, or the American Music Awards the same year. The notes slide, the breath gives out halfway through phrases, and the auto-tune is so aggressive you can almost see the little grid lines dancing across the screen. Vocal coaches on early YouTube reaction channels, the ones that were just starting to blow up, paused those performances frame by frame and asked the question that still echoes today. Where is the real singer under all of this? Kesha has never hidden the truth. In her 2017 Rolling Stone cover story, right after the release of Rainbow, she said the label didn't believe her raw voice could carry the project, especially while she was fighting the legal and personal battles that eventually became public. The heavy processing wasn't just a creative choice, it was a shield. Then something remarkable happened. After years away from the spotlight, she came back with Praying, a song that demanded a naked, vulnerable vocal, and delivered it in stripped-down studio sessions that left even her harshest critics silent. By the time the Gag Order tour rolled around in 2023, reviewers who once buried her were writing paragraphs about how shockingly strong and unexpectedly controlled her live voice had become. You can pull up footage from that tour today and hear a singer who can hold a note, ride dynamics, and emote in a way the 2010 version simply couldn't. Yet if you type Kesha live vocals into any search bar in 2025, the top recommended videos are still the old ones. The pitchy SNL clip, the breathy AMA run, the compilations titled Kesha Without Autotune. 15 years later, the internet's muscle memory hasn't caught up with reality. That's the cruel trick of pop stardom. Sometimes the version of you that breaks first is the version the world decides to keep forever. Kesha spent the better part of a decade proving she could sing. And in many ways, she's still singing against a ghost from 2010. It's a reminder that growth is real, but public perception moves at its own speed. And speaking of artists trying to outrun an early reputation, our next entry took the opposite path. She built an entire empire on looking and sounding perfect in 15-second clips, then stepped onto a real stage and discovered the rules had changed completely. Number 11 is Addison Rae. Top 11. Addison Rae. At number 11 sits Addison Rae, whose story reads like a script from one of her own TikTok fever dreams, a teenager from Louisiana posting bedroom dance videos in 2019, amassing 88 million followers by 2021, dipping her toes into music with a 2023 EP that divided the internet, and then, in 2025, dropping a self-titled debut album that cracked the Billboard Top 50 and turned her into a legitimate pop contender. Tracks like Diet Pepsi and Aquamarine aren't just catchy, they're engineered earworms, blending late 90s house pulses with breathy Lana Del Rey whispers, all wrapped in production so polished it could double as a mirror. Charli XCX herself called Diet Pepsi a standout in interviews, crediting Rae's ear for what hooks an audience. But here's where the fairy tale hits a snag the second those songs leave the studio and hit a live stage. The magic starts to flicker. The moment that etched Addison into every worst live singer discussion happened in October 2024 at a Spotify pop-up event in New York. She's in a white crop top and denim shorts, channeling that effortless, flirty energy that made her TikTok famous, performing Diet Pepsi to a hyped crowd. The video explodes online, racking up 28 million views in a week, not for the moves, but for the lip sync that's so visibly off rhythm it looks like she's auditioning for a parody. Comments flood in 4 years of perfecting TikTok lip syncs, and this is the result, or singing in head voice the whole time. Where's the talent? It wasn't malice. It was the stark contrast between the seamless video version and the live attempt that felt like watching a demo reel glitch in real time. Rae's team pushed back gently, insisting she sings live on her arena tours. But the mixes tell a different story, layers of backing vocals so dense they swallow any raw edges, leaving audiences guessing what's her and what's the track. Vocal coaches, from established YouTube channels to Reddit threads on Sharpwire's pop heads, break it down consistently, flattening on those high, modulated notes that sound ethereal in the studio but turn spoken-sung on stage. A delivery more conversational than commanding. It's not tone-deaf, it's just underdeveloped, like a dancer who nailed the choreography but forgot the song starts with a belt. To her credit, Addison owns it without apology. In a March 2025 Rolling Stone profile, she shrugged, "I'm a dancer. First, the voice is the instrument I'm still figuring out." She's 25, independently releasing music now after label drama, and collaborating with heavyweights like Charli and Troye Sivan on stages like Madison Square Garden, where Diet Pepsi got its Sweat Tour debut to roaring crowds. Critics praised the album's cohesion. Utterly Vapid called it anonymous but enjoyable, evoking Madonna's Ray of Light era, proving her taste in production and visuals can carry the day. Even skeptics on forums like r/Faux-moi admit she's improving, with live clips from her 2025 London set alongside Lana Del Rey, showing warmer, more grounded tones than the early flubs. Still, the gap lingers like an unfinished chorus, in an era where TikTok trained a generation to expect perfection in 15 seconds. Addison's live shows feel like the raw draft of a hit single full of promise, but not quite ready for the final mix. It's fair criticism, rooted in the high bar she set with those viral videos. But it's also a testament to how far she's come from bedroom influencer to arena headliner, proving that in 2025, pop, charisma, and curation can buy you time to grow into the voice the world demands. Whether she closes that gap or leans harder into the spectacle remains one of the most intriguing bets in new music. That tension between digital polish and live grit brings us to number 10. An artist who's mastered the arena spectacle but tripped over her own mic in the process, turning a simple mistake into a full-blown viral autopsy. Tate McRae is up next. Top 10. Tate McRae. Number 10 is Tate McRae, the Calgary kid who went from So You Think You Can Dance runner-up at 13 to selling out Madison Square Garden before she turned 22. You Broke Me. First and Greedy weren't just hits, they became the soundtrack for an entire generation working through heartbreak in real time. By the time her third album, So Close to What, dropped in February 2005, Tate was being crowned the new Princess of Pop by outlets from Billboard to the cover of Vogue. The Little Miss Possessive tour that followed was one of the hottest tickets of the year. 50 cities, sold out in minutes, choreography that looked like contemporary dance on Red Bull. Then came Halloween Night in Austin. Midway through Two Hands, one of the most demanding numbers in the set, Tate flips into a sharp cane routine, spins, and accidentally turns her handheld microphone completely upside down. The arena is roaring, the lights are strobing, and her vocal sails through crystal clear. No drop, no distortion, no change in volume. Within an hour, the clip is everywhere. Slow-motion side-by-sides appear next to earlier tour footage, where the mic is right side up, proving the exact same vocal layer is running underneath regardless of orientation. The internet verdict was swift-heavy, sometimes dominant, pre-recorded tracks. To be clear, this wasn't the first time questions had surfaced. Earlier stops on the tour had already drawn comments about how pristine the vocals stayed while Tate executed full-out choreography that would leave most singers gasping. Vocal coaches pointed out that when she's stationary, think the seated NPR Tiny Desk concert from 2024, her pitch is solid, her tone is warm, and her breath control is genuinely impressive for someone so young. The moment the movement ramps up, though, the support collapses, and the track takes over. It's a pattern we've seen with a lot of artists who prioritize dance as much as song. What made the Austin moment different was how undeniable it was. There was no room for maybe the in-ear mix is loud, or maybe the arena acoustics are helping. The mic was literally backwards, and the show didn't miss a beat. Tate addressed it indirectly a week later in Denver, laughing on stage. I guess I proved I can sing upside down, too, which got a huge cheer, but the clip kept circulating. Here's the larger context that often gets lost. Tate is 22 years old, headlining her first global arena run, doing choreography that would exhaust professional dancers, all while promoting an album that debuted top 5. In that environment, some track support isn't cheating, it's survival. Artists from Britney Spears to Beyoncé to Ariana Grande have used varying degrees of pre-recorded vocals when the staging demands it. The difference in 2025 is that phones catch everything, and Gen Z expects total transparency. When the curtain gets pulled back, even a little, the reaction feels personal. Tate has real vocal talent. Anyone who's watched her acoustic sessions or the stripped versions she posts on social knows that. But right now, the live show is built like a Broadway musical. The dance is the star, and the vocal track is the safety net. Whether she eventually scales back the movement to let the voice breathe, or simply owns the hybrid style like so many before her, will decide if this moment becomes a footnote or a defining chapter. For now, the upside-down mic joins the permanent highlight reel, not because she can't sing, but because the question shifted from "can she" to "how much are we actually hearing?" And that's a debate that follows every young pop star who chooses spectacle over stillness. Speaking of artists whose live reputations have been dissected for over a decade, number 9 is someone who's been famous longer than Tate has been alive, and whose every breath on stage still splits the room down the middle. Selena Gomez is next. Top 9. Selena Gomez. Number 9 is Selena Gomez, an artist who has spent more than half her life in the spotlight and whose voice, soft, breathy, and unmistakably hers, has become one of the most recognizable signatures in pop. Yet for 15 years, that same voice has also been one of the most relentlessly debated. The performance that still tops every Selena Live vocals search happened on November 24, 2019 at the American Music Awards. She walked out alone under a single spotlight to open the show with Lose You to Love Me. Her first public statement after the Justin Bieber chapter finally closed. The first note cracked almost immediately. The phrasing rushed ahead of the band in places. Breath support faltered. And by the final chorus, the arena was roaring in support, while the internet was already slicing the clip into reaction videos titled, "What Happened?" and "Selena Gomez Can't Sing Confirmed." It became the defining live moment of her career, replayed millions of times, dissected by vocal coaches, memed endlessly. Selena has never pretended it was her finest hour. She has spoken openly about the toll of lupus, the 2017 kidney transplant, the anxiety that can spike her heart rate on stage, and the medication that sometimes leaves her physically drained. Those are real factors that affect breath control and stamina. Facts she has shared in interviews with Vogue, on her Apple TV Plus documentary, My Mind and Me, and in quiet moments on Instagram Live. In recent years, she has almost entirely stepped away from the big, belt-heavy, full-band award show spectacles. Instead, she chooses seated acoustic performances, small rooms, or heavily supported tracks. When she sang Lose You to Love Me Again at a 2024 Emmy FYC event for Only Murders in the Building, sitting on a stool with just a guitar, the response flipped warm, intimate, in tune, and deeply moving. Yet the 2019 clip remains the benchmark for an entire generation. It's the one that gets attached to every new discussion. The one that surfaces whenever another artist's leaked texts call her vocals weak and then scramble to apologize after the backlash. The drama around those moments often drowns out the quieter progress. Selena has improved her breath technique, worked with top coaches, and learned exactly what her body can and cannot handle on any given night. But because the loudest failures happened on the biggest stages, they became the permanent reference point. At her core, Selena's gift has never been about vocal gymnastics. It's about emotional immediacy, that fragile, close-to-the-mic delivery that makes you feel like she's whispering the lyric directly to you. Songs like Wolves, Lose You to Love Me, or My Mind and Me don't need Mariah runs, they need truth. And she delivers that in a way few others can. Expecting her to suddenly morph into a powerhouse belter at 33 is like asking Billie Eilish to hit Christina Aguilera notes. It misses the entire point of the artistry. The criticism isn't wrong to point out limitations, but it often ignores context, health, and intention. Selena knows her lane, stays in it more deliberately now, and still fills arenas and headlines festivals. The debate lingers because her voice is so distinctive that when it falters, the fall feels personal to millions who grew up with her. In the end, the conversation around Selena's live singing says less about technical perfection and more about what we, as listeners, actually want from the artists we love: flawless acrobatics or honest connection. She chose the second path a long time ago, and the fact that we're still arguing about it 15 years later proves just how deeply that choice landed. That tension between what an artist can do and what the public demands brings us to number 8, a superstar who once ruled the charts with fireworks and cotton candy visuals, but whose live vocal struggles have become as famous as the hits themselves. Katy Perry is next. Top 8 Katy Perry. Number 8 is Katy Perry, the woman who turned candy-coated rebellion into a global empire. 143 million records sold, the most-watched Super Bowl halftime show ever, a Las Vegas residency that ran for 2 years straight, and a net worth that lets her launch satellites for fun. She is, by every commercial metric, one of the most successful pop artists of all time. She is also the name that has appeared in more pitchy live vocals compilations than almost anyone else over the past decade. The receipts are long and painful. The 2013 American Music Awards performance of Unconditionally is still cited as Exhibit A, a slow-motion train wreck of wobbling pitch and visible strain that has racked up tens of millions of views across reaction channels. The 2017 Witness Tour opener in Columbus, where Roulette cracked so dramatically on the opening phrase that the clip immediately became a permanent fixture in YouTube's Hall of Fame. Fast forward to August 2025, and a TikTok trend resurfaces a 10-year-old acoustic clip of Thinking of You that sounds painfully flat. Katy, mid-Lifetimes tour, watches the trend blow up and decides to handle it on her own terms. In Denver, she stops the show, grins, and says, "Newsflash. I don't sing like that anymore, and by the way, my dancing's gotten a lot better too." The arena erupts. It's vintage Katy, self-aware, playful, and refusing to let the internet have the last word. Vocal coaches break it down the same way every time. Her chest voice on Uptempo's Teenage Dream in the 2024 Vegas Play Residency. California Girls on the 2022 festival circuit can still deliver power and bite. The moment she reaches for sustained head voice or tries to float a ballad without the safety net of in-ear pitch correction, which she often skips because she says it disconnects her from the crowd, the support falters and the cracks appear. Age 39, motherhood, and a tour schedule that would exhaust singers half her age don't help breath control. The Blue Origin spaceflight in April 2025 and the relentless media cycle around the 143 album rollout only added more pressure to every note. What makes Katy's case fascinating is how openly she owns it. She has never claimed to be a vocal acrobat. In interviews from 2017 onward, she has talked about prioritizing energy and connection over perfection, saying, "I'm a live entertainer first. If the crowd is screaming, I'm doing my job. And the crowds keep coming." The Lifetimes tour is tracking to gross well over $100 million, even with the vocal memes circulating nightly. There's a larger truth here. Katy built her kingdom on spectacle, charisma, and songs so massive they forgive a lot of sins. When she nails it, and there are nights on this very tour where she absolutely does, the payoff is euphoric. When she doesn't, the fall feels steeper precisely because the expectations were stratospheric. She knows the clips exist. She jokes about them, and she keeps stepping onto the stage anyway. That refusal to hide, to shrink, or to lip-sync her way out of it is part of what has kept her relevant for 17 years. Katy Perry isn't on this list because she can't sing at all. She's here because the gap between what her records promise and what her live voice sometimes delivers has become its own subplot in pop history. And in an era where perfection is one click away, her willingness to be gloriously imperfect might actually be the most punk rock thing she's ever done. We close part 1 with the original blueprint for famous first, singer. Second, a woman whose one and only album is still quoted, sampled, and defended almost 20 years later. Number 7 is Paris Hilton. Top 7. Paris Hilton. Number 7 is Paris Hilton, the woman who, more than anyone else alive, wrote the modern playbook for being famous simply for being famous. In 2006, at the absolute peak of tabloid culture, she decided to add recording artist to the resume and released an album called Paris. Against every expectation, it went platinum, largely on the strength of one genuine summer anthem, Stars Are Blind. That song still pops up on playlists today. It's breezy, effortless, and legitimately catchy. Everything else on the record, though, landed with the subtlety of a diamond-encrusted sledgehammer. Critics at the time were merciless. Rolling Stone handed it 2 stars and described the vocals as a thin, nasal whisper, floating on 10 layers of studio gloss. Entertainment Weekly called it the musical equivalent of a designer handbag, expensive, shiny, and ultimately empty. Pitchfork's infamous 3.2 review opened with the line, "Paris Hilton sings like someone who has never heard singing before." Even the kinder notices framed it as a novelty fun background noise for a pool party, not something you'd ever play for The Voice. Live television was another story entirely. Watch the 2006 Tonight Show performance of Nothing in This World. Paris is in a glittery mini dress, hair extensions swinging, striking pose after pose, while a pre-recorded vocal track does 90% of the heavy lifting. The few moments she does sing into the mic are airy, slightly off-pitch, and quickly swallowed by the band. It's not disastrous. It's just unnecessary. The audience is there to see Paris Hilton be Paris Hilton, not to discover the next great vocalist. Even the crown jewel, Stars Are Blind, didn't escape controversy. Listeners quickly pointed out that the melody and vibe owed a massive debt to UB40's 1983 reggae classic Kingston Town. The resemblance was close enough that a quiet settlement was reached out of court, and the credits were adjusted. Paris never denied the influence. She leaned into the laid-back island feel and let the song do what it was always meant to do. Soundtrack rooftop parties and MySpace profiles. Almost 20 years later, Paris looks back on the entire era with the kind of self-awareness most artists spend lifetimes trying to fake. On her podcast and in countless interviews, she laughs, "I never said I was Mariah Carey. I was 25, having the time of my life, and wanted to make a fun record." She has performed Stars Are Blind at festivals and DJ sets in recent years with zero pretense the track plays. She dances, the crowd sings every word, and everyone understands the assignment. That's why she lands at number 7, and not higher. The music was never the point. The persona was. Paris didn't need vocal runs or perfect pitch. She needed a vibe, a look, and a moment. She delivered all 3 in abundance. In a strange way, her complete lack of delusion about her own singing ability makes the whole experiment feel honest. She wasn't trying to fool anyone into thinking she was the second coming of Whitney Houston. She was selling fantasy, escapism, and a lifestyle, and the album was just another glittery accessory. Paris Hilton proved that in pop music, sometimes the package is the product, and 2 decades later, an entire generation of influencers, TikTok stars, and image-first artists owe her a thank you note they'll probably never send. And that brings us to the end of part 1. 6 artists, 6 different eras, 1 common thread. Massive cultural impact built on everything but traditional vocal supremacy. In 7 days, we're back with numbers 6 through 1. The names that will flood the comments before the video even finishes uploading. Until then, Tell me in the comments who you think takes the top spot. And keep it respectful. We're here for the conversation, not the combat. Hit the like button if you want part 2 faster. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you right back here next week. This is Behind the Lights. Stay curious.